Hey YouTube, I'm responding to commentary that was placed on O'Shea Duke Jackson's handle. A lot of commentary regarding essentially what is the diaspora wars, right? Whereas um, topic of discussion was regarding Haitians and Black Americans and Caribbeans in general. Now myself, I am a Jamaican. I was raised in Miami. I attended North Miami High and Thomas Jefferson Middle School. I am from the area. And regarding the commentary about Haitian Day and a lot of Haitian kids getting jumped, Caribbean kids getting jumped, that is very true. That took place. I was witness to it. North Miami class of 95. My stepbrothers, 7 years my senior, class of 87, and my stepsister class of 85. These things took place. But there's more to it. There's a lot more to it than what is being led with on the internet. Now, it's a history, as a Pan Africanist, as I am, there's a history that kind of uh, explains a lot of the things that was taking place, right? So there's no personal grievance. I'm not one that's going to be a participant in the diaspora wars. So I have no grievance against my African American brothers and sisters, none whatsoever. But certain things did take place, and it was an actual event. I hear people on the internet that never lived in the area, never lived in North Miami, right? They're not from North Miami or Miami in general. That they're making speculative commentary. Never experienced it, never went through it. Now, in North Miami, during the 70s and 80s, kids from less advantaged demographics were moved or bust, actually. As a matter of fact, they were bust from the Poke and Beans, Scott Projects. And as a result of schools not being funded, up to the 90s, when you go to school board meetings in Miami, when you attended those meetings, it was still an argument, even the 2000s, of inner city schools not being funded correctly and tax dollars being diverted to white schools or more affluent areas, if you will, right? Um, that was a thing. Their solutions of it in the 70s was busing these kids to um, areas where more affluent or white. A simple thing. North Miami was one such place. Now, what took place in that was a lot of racial animus. It kind of started, I would say, a trend of white flight, in a sense. Um, Kind of started in the mid 80s from North Miami. The surrounding areas like North Miami, Miami Shores, El Portal, Biscayne Park, those were the more affluent areas in the northern part of Dade County. And at the time, the kids were being bused there. The Thomas Jefferson Middle, at the time it was a junior high school, or North Miami Senior High. And when it was, this is a little bit before the Caribbean wave that took place. So they used to have something called Negro Day. You fill in the blanks what that is. Where the white kids last week of school would jump African American kids, our brothers, right? That was a thing. It took place, right? Now, with the emergence of more affluent African Americans and Caribbeans moving into North Miami, it kind of ushered in a white flight. Now, with many white folks moving out, it became a thing where these kids from the Scout Projects were still there, but more affluent Caribbean and affluent African American kids were there, and they were kind of targeted and picked on because lifestyles were different. That was a thing. That was a real thing. And it kind of culminated the last week of school. So there were always a series of fights. right? And then you had Haitian Day. So Haitian Day was a replacement for Negro Day. Okay, you fill in the blanks. It was a thing. Um, I've been targeted for it because I think many of our African brothers can't, at the time, couldn't tell the linguistic difference between Jamaican patois or Haitian Creole. That was, yeah, I don't know. For them, we were all Haitian, and that was okay because I grew up in kind of environment where I'm a Pan Africanist, and I grew up around that environment. So I've always, unlike other people in the diaspora, because even amongst Caribbeans, Haitian and Jamaicans, or Haitians and Trinidadians, or Trinidadians and Jamaicans, there's always these little beefs, microaggressions, and little standoffishness that takes place. I was raised in an environment where we didn't play that. We didn't toe those lines. So growing up, my friends were African Americans. My friends were Haitian. My brothers, my sisters, you know, I grew up with, I would call them their family. They were from all parts of the Caribbean, continental Africans, that sort of thing. I hung in that crowd. That was my circle. But for some African Americans, we were all Haitians and we were subject to being jumped. That was a thing. That was a real thing. So these things that they're disseminating, this denial, how do we know? Well, people got hurt. People went to the hospital. People got suspended. People got arrested. You could identify people by their surnames, right? Typically, right? Jamaicans so much were targeted as well in the 80s. We weren't that popular. It became a popularity thing somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s when honestly people started shooting back. People got shot. People got hurt. That's what took place. And a lot of recent arrivals, Haitians and so forth, Jamaicans and so forth, they were targeted because there is a time when you need to assimilate into a country. When you move into a country, you have to, you stood out. You stood out a lot. So there was a certain, I had to go through it because I came in the mid 80s and I had to go through the adjustment of becoming an American, or at least acclimating to American customs. And yeah, it was a learning process. Sometimes it was a rite of passage because you got into fights. It was a thing. My brother Milton Bowen. Now, ironically, he was the first. Milton, my step brother Milton was the first to use the gloves in UFC. You see all those MMA gloves? He was the one to do it. UFC 4, 1994 against Steve Jenham. Now, when he was going to North Miami, he was targeted on Haitian Day. Yeah, he was. He was in the 10th grade, and they tried to jump him 3-1 in the locker room, and because as a family we didn't advertise our boxing background, we trained at Muhammad Ali's gym at Fifth Street. That was owned by Chris Dundee, and Bojack Sidney Walker, Herschel Walker's uncle, was the head trainer at Fifth Street Gym. I'm also a Fifth Street product, but my focus was in track and field, not necessarily boxing. But my brothers, Ian Ford, Milton Bowen, they were fighters. And Milton ended up jumping him. One guy woke up, his jaw broken. Yeah, it actually was a thing. But he was jumped, so hey, got it fair and square. But these things did take place. I actually was targeted for jumping at a catwalk at Thomas Jefferson. Anyone that knows North Miami knows the catwalk, the little overpass right around 151st Street. And I was supposed to be jumped by 4 guys. And it was supposed to be Haitian Day. So if you look Haitian, features like these broad nose, big lips, you're Afrocentric, dark skin, like myself. Yeah, you're talk funny. Yeah, they looked at you like you're a Haitian. And yeah, unfortunately, you were targeted. And most of my friends were Haitian at the time. So yeah, I was subject to those things. So the point I'm trying to make is this. These things took place. It does not a way of creating grievance. I'm not trying to create grievance or strife between myself and African Americans because I'm a Pan African. I will not be a participant in the fuckery. But these things took place, and there has to be some acknowledgement of that, right? And that should be a lesson about these kind of diaspora wars, because there are people who are seeking to exploit these grievances, and we have to exercise a bit of situational awareness, right? The idea of being woke, I know it's been bastardized and taken all kind of ways out of context, but the idea of woke is to maintain 360 degrees, all aspects situational awareness. This whole thing is about to stoke division. Ask yourself this question: if you want to delineate or disassociate yourself from Africa, where are all these white folks moving over there? Where are they trying to take the resources? Africa is your birthright. And goes out to the FBAs and ADOS, all those people, progressives for immigration reform, all those people that's connected to Tariq Nasheed and Yvette Cromwell, you know, that's trying to stoke divisions, trying to create grievances. I do recall in 2022, 23, that many of these FBAs were actually going after black women. And I found myself a lot making commentary about the disrespect of black women by FBAs. Yeah, that was a thing too, right? And then in 2024, I started hearing we want tangibles. Okay. You went after Kamala. You said Kamala was one of us. She's foreign black, although she was an AKA and pretty much immersed herself in pro blackness, right? She attended all, HBCU. It wasn't black enough for you. So many of you guys said, you know what, let's vote the couch, which reminds me of the Do So movement in Trinidad in 2010. They used the same tactics. They use the same exact tactics. These are psych ops. These are micro-targeted analytics based on stoking grievance, based on division. In other words, you're being manipulated by this whole nonsense, by the Tenton Network and other associates, Eric Prince and his people, which his sister was Bessie DuBois, which was Secretary of Education. What do you think they went after critical race theory and all that? Made up all this boogeyman situations about that. They want to keep us dumb. They want to keep us divided. And it's about control. Now, me, I make a personal decision. I stand for my people, African Americans, Afro-Caribbean. They're a personal choice. You have to make a decision for yourself how you want to go about it. And whatever consequences come with that, you have to be willing to accept it. But to all my brothers, my African Americans, understand that Africa is also your birthright. And many of these movements came about right around 2019 after the Ghanaian president issued a return, I think, right to passage or passage to return doctrine. For some reason, it created concern in the establishment. The establishment didn't like that at all. And there's always been a thing where, even during the Harlem Renaissance, where we were spied, people were spying. Marcus Garvey's best friend was number 33, was an FBI informant. They wanted this unity because Harlem was the Mecca. Harlem is the Mecca of the African diaspora, believe it or not. Nations were built as a result of Harlem, and Overtown was just like it, right? So many movements, the UNIA movement. I heard one FBA, he tries to say that Malcolm X wasn't a Pan-Africanist, as if his mother, Louise Little, wasn't was a branch reporter for the Negro Rural News, a UNIA publishing. His father was a reverend, and he was a leader in the UNIA. Malcolm X himself comes from 3 generations of, is his granddaddy too? Yes, 3 generations of Pan-Africanists. You think about who are Pan-Africans, Stokely Carmichael, Ms. Kwame Ture, he was a Pan-Africanist. Harry Belafonte was a Pan-Africanist. There were a lot more leaders. Elijah Muhammad was a Pan-Africanist. Yes. You think Huey wasn't? Huey was, indeed. And they were led a lot by black women. The Freedom Coalition, or what do you call it? The Lyles County Freedom Coalition Black Panther Party started in Lyles County, Alabama. These people were Pan Africans, of course. So why are we here? Why are we doing this? This diaspora war. Who benefits from this diaspora war? I think people need to think critically about this nonsense that we're putting out there. This hurts our community. We don't stand to benefit anything from this. I tell my Caribbeans, because we have a lot of sellouts in our community too. We have a lot of sellouts in our community, and we as Caribbeans, we need to deal with them. Haitians, the same thing, and I'm saying Caribbeans, right? Black Americans, same thing. African Americans, address this issue because we have to deal with our sellouts amongst our risks because someone profits from it, and the people will not benefit from it. Someone that's telling you to hate the other person or dislike or delineate, they want something. They want to take something, and it's from you. So me, my active decision is not to be a participant in the fuckery. All right? Peace and love. Let's get this right.